So landing AI successfully in your organization, it's a topic that I'm passionate about. I love it. And I love it because I have a background. I used to work in human resources, and then 13 years ago, I moved to IT and business development, and I worked a lot with software developers. And this area of AI adoption is something that brings together my two experiences that I have. So it's really something that fits me, and I really found my sweet spot. A little bit about my background. As I mentioned, I worked in human resources until I moved to Microsoft, and within Microsoft, I had the chance to move over to the business side into business development. And today, I'm not with Microsoft anymore, but I lead the business practice of a company called Neuron Solutions, the Copilot adoption and change management practice within the company. What I'm going to talk about today is how to land AI successfully in organization, but that doesn't mean that I'm like an expert. So I'm an expert based on experience. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm going to tell you is not necessarily the ultimate truth. It's more about what we've learned throughout the years as we were doing all these AI adoption projects at our enterprise customers. Okay? It's not research, it's not science. There could be other truths out there, but it's based on the experience that we had. A little bit about the company. It's a company that was established in Hungary in 2018 by a bunch of AI enthusiasts who believed that there is a future in AI, and guess what? They were right. So they've done AI before anybody understood what we are talking about exactly. And today we do three things. We do training, consulting, and we develop AI solutions for our customers. Before we go into the topic, I would like to put things into a little bit of context, okay, if you don't mind. And the first topic is about AI. And a lot of, the world has come to know AI with ChatGPT in November 2022, but AI has existed much, much, much longer before. So when was AI born? And what we are, seeing as the first step in AI is the date of the first conference that was dedicated to this topic. So any guesses when it took place?
1960.
Sorry. 1960? 1956. Who was that? Yeah, you are the winner. So it was a summer research conference dedicated to this topic. This is where the name artificial intelligence originates from. And basically a bunch of scientists set out and they said, it's so we can really learn we can really decode every aspect of learning and intelligence in a way that we will be able to teach it to machines. And until that point, the question was more about, can machines think? Can they learn? From that point on, the thinking has shifted, is how are we going to make machines think and learn? And basically, from that moment, from this conference, it became a legitimate scientific and engineering topic. And these guys at the time said, give us a few years. Give us 1 or 2 decades, and we'll, and we will solve this challenge. Now, it took a slightly longer than that, but we did solve it. So, we have it everywhere. But it's still considered as the kind of starting point of AI. So, what happened in the next 70 years? We went through different phases. First, it was artificial intelligence. It was more about, expert systems. Then, we moved into machine learning, where we have been using data to train the machine. Then we went into the neural networks with deep learning, and then we had a much higher level of prediction capabilities and pattern recognition capabilities. And then we arrived to the ChatGPT moment in November of 2022. Until this point, we have all been exposed to AI, but it was hidden. We didn't know that we have AI, or we didn't. Yeah, of course, some of the people knew, but the general population, when you were doing text prediction on your mobile phone, when you were looking at Google search results, when you were looking at forecasts, you didn't necessarily know that there is a machine learning model in the background. And most of the people didn't know. And what ChatGPT has brought is a fundamental change, because that was the first time when we, with the large language models, with the LLMs, we've started to build general purpose tools, and we had developed a new way of communication between machine and human, which is our own natural language. And that new interface made it possible for so much more people to use it. And this is where the paradigm has completely shifted in the business as well, because from that moment on, it's not anymore a technology project. It's about an organizational capability rather than a technology project when you talk about AI in a business context. Okay? So the next question to the audience is, what made this breakthrough possible? What were the key conditions that have changed that it was 2022 when this this revolution has happened?
Faster and more capable chip.
Sorry?
Chip.
Yeah.
Processor.
Yeah.
The data.
Computing, so enormous computing capacity that we built in the world, both technologically but also with the cloud. Second one? Data, exactly. Third one?
Neural network.
Open sourcing, the transformer.
It was about a shift in paradigm, because that was the moment when we moved from specific task-based solutions to general purpose solutions that can be used for many things. And I would like to come back to the data part, because I have another question related to data, but absolutely you are absolutely right with the answers. Where did the data come from? What was the major change in data that created the opportunity to create these LLMs, these large language models?
The mobile phone, I would say, the internet. So the internet was growing, a mobile phone had so much structured data on the internet. Social networks. Yeah, social networks. Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
Social media. Because the internet had a vast amount of information already, but it kind of blew up with social media. Because what happened before is, you had you wanted to learn about dogs, you had a few sites of a few breeders, they had a few photos of dogs, and then a text about dogs. But suddenly with social media, you have hundreds and thousands and millions of dog owners putting the photo of their dog on the internet and making a comment about walking my dog, etc. So the amount of data free content that was developed, that was created by the users, has just moved up significantly, and that was used to train the models. So that was another important part. Okay, so moving on to the topic. I've talked at the beginning about this a little bit, that now AI adoption is not an IT project anymore. It's really an organizational project with three main pillars. Obviously the technology pillar, the tools, the frameworks, the security part, the organizational adoption, the people, the skills, the internal communication around it, and then the adoption of the processes. And that's why, it's the good news for IT is it's not anymore an IT project. So you can get business resources into the picture. I remember talking to one of the executive directors of a big pharmaceutical company 2 years ago, and she's actually the head of HR and the head of IT at the same time. And she was telling me, we would love to do this, but we don't have the resources because our IT capacities are limited, because we are implementing SAP, and God knows. And I was telling her, don't look at IT. Go out to the business, find people who have the domain knowledge, who have the IT affinity, who have the motivation and the interest, bring them on board and use those resources to do your projects. And this is what they've done. So this is something to think about, that the role of IT changes completely in this setting, which is, in my view, is a pretty good news for IT because it can go much faster. So when we talk about adoption, we talk about a 3-layer adoption. It's a very simplistic model, but we find it, quite useful to how to think about it. And the first step is personal productivity, giving tools to people that will make them more productive in work. Then going up to the organizational process efficiencies, when you have solutions for your department, for your whole company, covering different processes. And then you come to the next stage, which very few companies manage to do, which is transformation to an AI-first company. And the big difference between these two levels is that here you take your existing processes and you look at how can I make them faster, better, less resources, in less time, etc. But when you get to here, then you are rethinking your business model, your business processes with AI first in mind. So it's not about taking your existing process and improving it, but it's completely reworking your processes and your company structure. Okay? Very few companies are there. There is a struggle to get to that level. So if there is something that is a key takeaway, is start with the personal productivity first. We have customers coming to us, help us do AI strategy. Let's sit down with the team and figure out the use cases. Did you give them a tool to use? Oh no, not yet. We'll do that after. No. It's like, it's like teaching somebody to bike without a bicycle. Theoretically, you can learn how to bike without a bicycle, but it's pretty difficult. If you give people a tool, then it's going to be much easier to go through the learning. And personal productivity tools, Copilot from Microsoft, Google Gemini Workspace, etc. These are pretty easy, off the shelf, easy to implement, relatively low investment. You don't need to have custom development. You don't need to do too many things. You have to pay your licenses. You need to pay for your adoption program, but it's a very low investment. And then you create that environment where people start to get familiar with AI, and then they will start working on their use cases, etc. We always recommend never do it without adoption. So don't just throw the tools. Microsoft has this Copilot chat built into M365, which is free now. Even for that, we always say, at least put some skill development, some communication behind it for people to start using it as like the lowest entry point where you can come in. If you do the licensed versions, the more complex versions, make sure that you have an adoption program supporting it. We always recommend a phased rollout that you get 5-10% of the company. You start with them, you create the buzz, you get the most motivated early adopters into a group. We always say to companies, like when you select these guys, really look at who is using ChatGPT, who has high IT affinity, who is motivated to be in this champion ambassador group. Start with that population and then roll it out for the bigger organization as needed. And then the other part, which is a big challenge for a lot of the organizations, is you have to create a self-learning organization. This is what I constantly talk to the HR people about, to the business people about, that you need to create an organization that is able to learn from each other. And that could be, something like, you set up an internal communication forum, you set up, whatever you use internally communicating, Viva Engage, or whatever other, tools that you use internally, Teams channels, etc. You know that I'm Microsoft because I only know the Microsoft tools. But whatever you have internally, we run a lot of forums for users, so where we have You have an opportunity to ask questions. There is an opportunity to share experiences, share learnings. And the reason why it's important is the fact that these tools are so complex, they can do so many things, it's almost mission impossible to train everyone from A to Z. It's not like before, where you had a software solution, you taught everybody what to do, and then the person went ahead and then they've used whatever they had to use. The same tool will be very different for a salesperson who is probably spending a lot of time on calls, so maybe the AI note-taking will be a great tool. The finance person who works with zillions of Excel, then it's the agent in Excel mode will be, a great tool. So, so people will be different. So create the environment where you can, they can learn how to use it, but then they can learn from each other. I discovered this, I've done this last week. Look at the experience I had, or I have a question that I can, that somebody will answer from the community. So create this self-learning organization where, the people can help each other to grow. And then the other part of that self-learning, which is important, is these tools come out every month with a new feature. It's almost a full-time job to keep up with what is happening. And people don't necessarily have time to deal with it. So, again, the new features have to be introduced. And these self-learning forums or communities are really, really great way to induce the new features into the organization. Okay? So that's about the personal productivity side. And what we see, and this is where it becomes amazing, is that what you do with these tools, apart from actually saving time for people, giving them a tool that is going to take away tedious, non-important, like non-value-added jobs, is the fact that it unleashes the creativity. People come with ideas, people come with use cases, because they've gotten a tool that is working for them. They've gotten an assistant who is going to help them, or a junior student, or or an assistant. So somebody starts working for them, and the ideas are coming. We have been working at a pharma company, and we were sitting on the forum, and this guy from production is coming with all kinds of ideas. How yes, and then I asked Copilot that I go in the morning, and then I have the production plan for a day, and I have the inventory, and how can you make sure that we have enough raw material in the warehouse to do today's production? And we look at him like, sorry, but you don't need AI for this. This you could have done 5 years ago without any kind of LLM. But he never thought about it. He never had that thinking of how could I make my own processes, my own work more automated, etc. So, you will find that, that creativity will bring in up, even ideas that are just process automation, digitalization, etc. And that kind of creativity that will help the organization to move forward. The other part is again a great news for IT, is you can launch a citizen developer program. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the phrase. So it's basically people in the organization who are not in IT, who are not as a job, not software developers, but who are using some of these low-code, no-code development tools in order to develop their own little solutions for them or for their teams on a smaller scale. Again, resource for IT. When you introduce the personal productivity tool, very soon people will reach a limit where it has to be a little bit more complex than that. Then you teach them how to use that. You give, as IT, you are responsible for making sure that you have the framework, the governance in place. But then you can use these resources, and people will come with ideas. You will have to have a very good triage system to very quickly make a decision. Yes, you can go ahead and do this. Or no, you shouldn't be doing it because, for example, this need comes up from every department. You shouldn't be doing a solution for the HR department, then the finance department, and the legal department. Maybe we need to bring it up on a company level. So you need to have those decisions quickly, but then you let people go. I said, go, do your solution. This is what you need to do. These are the resources you get. This is the testing you need to do. This is the criteria at the end. What how it's if we are going in production with it or not. And then suddenly you have like lots of people doing POCs for you, and as IT, you don't have to do it anymore. You don't have to bring in external resources and others. Sorry, sorry, JLabs. And then you take them to production. And there are some amazing examples. We have been working